Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and on this video we're going back to the EG hatch that we're going to be putting the GSR in, and on this video we're going to be doing the wiring and getting it prepared to install into the car. So hopefully on this episode you'll be able to successfully take your EG car and get it ready to put a VTEC motor in it, such as this one. I am going to be wiring in the IAB, the VTEC, and the knock sensor. Because I am running a P72 stock ECU, so and I plan to run everything stock like it came. So, yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get started. Here on the passenger side shock tower, what I want to do is run basically my wires from these plugs to the ECU. In the past, I have taken out the battery and ran them through under here, but probably what I'm going to do is just make a hole in this plug and run through that. It's just really complicated to try to go through the firewall up here. You have to take like, the blower motor out and all that other stuff, and it's just really more hassle than it's worth. So you can take this little plug right here, drill a hole in it, put your wires through that, and good to go. But you see these two little plugs here on this bigger plug. Those are for your VTEC. So one's VTEC pressure and the other is the VTEC solenoid. And then the one that goes right here in this little spot is the knock sensor. The IAB actually is wired the same as the evap solenoid on a OBD1. So it's this wire right here on the driver's side. On this one, it's red with black, it appears. I got to check the wiring diagram real quick and make sure it goes to the same pin on the ECU on the inside, but I may have to move a pin on the inside or something along those lines to get the IABs wired up correctly. But it is already run on the engine harness to the plug over here. I actually had to swap the plug on this because I dropped the motor on the gray plug and I just didn't have another gray plug, so the blue plug is the same as the other one, but it's just a different color, so that's why mine has a blue plug. On the OBD2 GSR harness, it has this 3-wire plug over here on the side. Alright, so the blue one and the white, or the blue with the red stripe and the white with the red stripe, both go to the crank sensor, which is over here, which we're not using, so don't have to worry about those two. And then the red wire, let's see, I think, yeah, the red wire with the yellow tracer goes to the purge valve up here, on the intake. Technically, you don't have to worry about that either because of it being OBD1. So on the OBD1, like we have this charcoal canister. The Integra one's a little bit different. It doesn't have a little vacuum line that comes to it. Most people I see actually take this off, and that's probably what I'm going to do too. I don't really need it, so probably just going to delete that. And then on the purge valve over here, I'm not going to be using it either. So I'll probably just put a cap over it, or just leave it like that. So, but I'm not going to wire that in either. So the these 3 wires on this plug are not going to be used, so it's no big deal. I'm just going to leave that one not hooked up. Probably just zip tie it to the rest of the harness just to where it's out of the way. Or it actually may clip in here. We'll see. We'll see when we get to it. I did get the fuel line from the GSR car and put on here, just so it doesn't have any issues hooking up to the fuel rail. Also, I do have to get a booster hose. I could use the one off the Integra, but I'm still using the Integra, so I'm just going to get another hose from the junkyard for that. I think that the heater core hoses are going to work just fine because this one will plug into the GSR back heater core hose, and then this one will hook into the one that goes to the side of the head. No problem there. And then we can just leave this. This is a fuel tank vent, so I'll probably just leave that open if I take the canister out. And I'm probably going to take the rest of this air box out because we're going to be using the little AEM intake that came on the GSR engine. And then we'll be getting this baby plugged in. Alright, so I started out by taking some wires. I got 3 wires here because that's how many I need to run over here. And I just drilled them. I put them, one end in the vise and the other end in my drill, and it twists them up, makes them look real nice, right? And then I just wrapped it in some 3M tape. And then I took a drill bit and I drilled a hole in the plug right here. I'm gonna run them through that, and then I'll be able to tie them into the ECU, and then put them in these holes here, and we'll get it wired up. All right, so these wires I have are way too long for what I'm actually needing here, but I'm just gonna run it, started it through that hole, and then hopefully I can go on the inside and pull it the rest of the way through. We'll see in a second. All right, I've probably pushed 6 to 8 inches up through there. Let's go on the inside. All right, so get out from under here. All right, so we're down here under the glove compartment, right? So if you go, you see this is our drain tube for the evaporator. So if you reach your hand right up in here, there's those wires. So we're just gonna we can pull those on in. All right. So now we got our wires over here. You see the computer mounts over here under the carpet. It's already unmounted, so this is actually the stock computer for this car, and I gotta take that one out. So, but we'll get more wire pulled in here in a minute whenever I figure out how much I actually need to have in here. All right, so I went to the junkyard and just got a piece of a harness. It's got the same pins that I need for this, so I'm using this for parts. And so basically, if it has a little white piece in here, like this one, you can just use a gasket pick, and you can pick that out. All right, just picks right out. So I've got to add these 2 pins here. So you can just take a gasket pick and pull those little plugs out. All right. So what I'm going to do is just going to push down on the plug. All right. And we got that. And then I'm just going to find a green wire on here for my solenoid wire. All right, so now I've got 2 pins. All right, so the one closest to the clip here is the solenoid, vtec solenoid. So just gonna clip that in there. And the next one right here is for the pressure sensor. And then I got our last little plug here, which would be a red with a blue tracer on our other harness, but that's for our knock sensor. So since I'm using a yellow wire on this, I'm trying to keep them all kind of where they're the same color so that I know what's what. All right, so I got a yellow wire out of the same connector. I'm just gonna plug it in right here, and that's for our knock again. Oh, still gotta pull the little white piece out before I can install the new wire. Because without this in there, you can't pull the wires out and you can't put them in. All right. So once we've got those new wires in, we'll put these little plugs back in. All right, just like so, and then all these should be about the same length. Yeah, they are. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to solder all of them onto this. You could use some butt connectors or something and do it that way, but I'm just going to do it this way with the solder, and I'm going to actually tape it after I solder it. You could put some heat shrink on it, that'd be fine. But a good quality tape will also work, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I've got some 3M Super 33 tape, and it works really good. And I guess technically you could reuse some pieces of a wiring harness for this too if you had it, but this is just some new wire I had here, so rather than fight with some old reused stuff, I just put some new on it and be done with it. So let's solder those up. Alright, so I got all three of those soldered up. Just make sure there's no sharp points. This one's got a little bit of a sharp point, so I just take my pliers and smash down the sharp points, make sure they're all good. They all feel good. So now this is the Scotch 33 tape. It works pretty good. It's what I taped the little harness I made out of. So just wrap all these individually. And before somebody tries to go and flame me, go and dissect a factory harness. All it has is tape. They don't put no heat shrink on them or nothing. So this right here will work just fine. It's been doing fine for years with me doing it this way. And I'll probably continue doing it this way for years. But now that I've got those three taped up, I'll just finish taping this up till I get closer to my terminals. Alright. So you can see I've pretty much got it to where it comes right to the end of that loom there. So now what I'm going to do is just get some zip ties and zip tie it along the harness all the way back to where it gets closer to where it goes in through the firewall, just to tidy it up. Try to make it appear as factory as I can. I know it's not 100% OEM, but we're trying to make it to where somebody didn't know any different would think it is OEM. So now I'm just going on the brake line, zip tying it to that. Push this harness on in some too. One more zip tie, I think we'll be set. All right, and I'm just going to snip those other zip ties, all these zip ties, the little tabs off of them, just make it look a little bit better. And pretty much the wiring and the engine bay is done. That simple. So now all I have to do is add my 3 wires onto the ECU as far as these are concerned, and I think on the other one I may have to move a pin for the evap for the IAB, the little butterflies on the intake. So we'll figure that out when we get to the inside. All right, so all the slack from the wires has been pulled to the inside now, and I've kind of got them routed over to where they'll be over here by the ECU. I still need to probably go further up over maybe like the blower motor mount and stuff, just to get them more to where they're not sagging down here. But then also while at the junkyard, I just grabbed some a pigtail off of a OBD1 car. These can be like off of any OBD1 Honda, whether it be an Accord, Prelude, Civic, or Integra, any of those. All we need is a few pins out of these. So it doesn't really matter, you know, you could just get one of the connectors like this one. The colors don't really matter in this application, so since we're all doing it custom wired anyway, so I just happen to have the whole shebang here. So I'm going to try to find maybe a couple wires that we're going to need and see if we can get this pinned out. All right, so what I did with the wire, I went over the drain tube and went over this mount, and then over that mount, and then that kind of will hold the wire up, keep it out from coming down the floorboard or whatever. So I got the wire over to here. Basically, these have two sizes of connectors in here. Let me see if I can get this light set up to where it's in. You can see it because it's kind of dark in here. But if you look here on the ends, see how those have bigger holes and then the ones in the middle have smaller holes. So I wound up needing one that has a bigger hole and then two with the smaller ones. So just depin those, and for those I use a little tool I've had for years. And it's just this. All right. I don't know if I can do it one-handed or not because I'm holding the camera with the other one. But basically, you have to flip this out. All right, you can see that one's not flipped. So basically, just pull up on it. It has these little tabs on the end that hold it closed. But anyway, you pull up on it, get it to where it unlocks like this. All right, and then you take your little pick. I chose the wires based off of the colors of the wires I'd already run in here. So for instance, the green, I chose the big one because that's the vtec solenoid. So vtec solenoid is going to go in the A plug, which is the bigger of the three plugs. All right, so the vtec solenoid goes in number 4, so A4. So I was looking at it as if it's plugged into the ECU. The top row is all odd, the bottom row is all even on these, so it'd be 2, 4, this blank one right here in the middle of my thumbnail. All right, so then we'll just take our green wire with the pin, right? Flip it around. No, I had it right the first time. It just clips in, just like that. So that's our vtec pressure, our vtec solenoid. All right, and then the other ones are going to be on the D plug, which is the second largest plug. All right, so our vtec pressure sensor is number 6. Again, the bottom row is the evens, so 2, 4, 6. The one right here by this brown wire. And since I used the white wire for my vtec pressure, I just chose a white wire out of the other harness. So we'll plug it in real quick. Alright, just clipped in good. Alright, and then our knock sensor is D3, so it's going to be on the top row, so I got to pop this other side. And so got that open, and it's going to be D3, so looking at it as it's plugged into the ECU, 1 and 3, so it goes in the second one. And since I use a yellow wire in this for my knock sensor, I just chose a yellow wire. And then just gonna plug it in. Alright, so I've got that one plugged in where it goes. Right there. Alright, lock it back into place with our little tab. Now I do have to move one of these wires, the one that went to the purge. This A17, so it's going to be on the bottom. No, it's going to be on the top. I'm sorry. I got to move it from A20. This is red wire right here. Then I got to move it to A17, which is the IAB output. So I got to depin it and then put it on the top row where it belongs. So we're just getting this red wire right here. Removed it. All right. I'll lock this back. And we're going to put it in 17 on the top. So on the top, we got 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17. So it goes right here. Plug it in like so. Now if I was going to wire in that purge solenoid, I'd have to wire it back into the A20 where that wire had came out of. But I'm not going to run it back on this one, so I don't throw a check engine light or anything on OBD1, so we're not worried about that. So now we just kind of get these wires. I kind of usually put a little tape on them here to just to tidy them up. You can run the wires beneath this side over here, and then I'll solder them after they come out the top and kind of give that factory appearance. Alright, so I got those wires out the top over here. So now that they're out of the top, just go ahead and see how it already had tape on it here. So I'll just put a little more tape on it, just to include the wires that I just put in. Alright, and I'll do the same for my other connector over here. Don't take a lot of tape, just a little bit. You can see how I ran those wires through the plastic piece all the way to the top up here. And so now I'm just gonna work on getting those soldered together. I know the camera angle down here isn't the best, but I'm kind of just making the best out of the situation. So again, since I put the colors in kind of corresponding with the colors that I had already run, I can kind of not have to do any guesswork at this point. All right. And then we can take this excess wire and just tuck it up behind the carpet. This is going to be behind the carpet too, so it's not really that big a deal. It'll all be hidden. But that pretty much is going to wrap that up. My neck. All right, so yeah, that's all the wiring that we'll need to do for this setup. There's no additional wiring. You don't have to, like, I'm using the OBD2 engine harness on the GSR engine that came from the Integra. It plugs right into the shock towers on the Civic, so there's nothing to change. There's no need to get an OBD1 harness or OBD1 alternator, OBD1 injectors, OBD1 distributor, none of that. It all works just like it is. All you have to do, plug it into the shock towers and go. So that little bit of wiring I just showed you, that's all the wiring it takes to make this swap work. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please smash the like button and be sure to check out the rest of the series for the rest of the information on how to do this swap. Thanks for watching this video. Hope to see you on another one. Peace.